Stories of an evil Superman has always floated around the mythos, and now we finally have one in theaters. How did it turn out? Let's talk about it. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in to my opinion/review for Brightburn. I really do appreciate it. Now, this film, Brightburn, is being directed by Mr. David Yarovesky. If you've never heard of him before, his first film that he's directed was in 2014 called The Hive. And with Brightburn only being the second film in his whole filmography that he's directed, I'm very impressed with the work that he did within this film. Now, this film is also being produced by Mr. James Gunn. If you don't know James Gunn, he's the director behind the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, and he will also be handling the new rebooted The Suicide Squad for Warner Brothers. And the writers of this film is also Brian Gunn and Mark Gunn. Those are the younger brothers of Mr. James Gunn. So we have a whole big family working together within this film, and I think that's pretty cool. Now, the thing that I love about this film is it is the evil version of Superman. Everybody knows who Superman is and where he's came from. And the idea of an evil Superman floating around destroying everybody if he came to Earth has always been on the back of people's mind, like what if? And this film is like the perfect what if scenario. And what I loved about it is, even though I am familiar with the Superman story within this film, I had no idea what was going to happen next. I had no idea how this was going to end, and that's one of the things that made it much better than I originally anticipated. So what this film is about is you have a married couple by the name of Tori and Kyle Breyer. They want to have children, but they're not able to conceive. They've tried over and over and over again, and things are just not working. And the film really makes sure you know that point at the very beginning of the film. But then all of a sudden, an alien spaceship comes out of nowhere, crashes in their backyard. They open up the ship and they have a little baby boy. And it seems like their prayers and dreams were answered, and they now have a son. And I really have to give it to the cast in this film. They did a great job. Tori and Kyle Breyer being played by Elizabeth Banks and David Denman, and they did a great job as far as acting is concerned, especially Miss Elizabeth Banks. I mean, she was desperate for a child, rightfully so, not judging her. But I can only imagine how difficult it can be if you're a woman, wants to have a child, not able to conceive, but then out of nowhere an alien baby comes. Like, I really can understand how you would be attached to that child. And with her character, she was a bit naive at times, but at the same time, with me trying to put myself in her shoes, I can completely understand where she comes from. And that's one of the things that I loved about her character. But the character that we have to talk about is the titular character. His name is not Brightburn. His name is Brandon Breyer. He is the alien boy, the evil Superman that comes out of nowhere. He's being played by Mr. Jackson A. Dunn. Yes, he has the same name as James Gunn, Brian Gunn, and Mark Gunn. And so I believe he is a part of the family. If you've seen Avengers Endgame, he was also in that film as well during the time travel sequence for Paul Lang. He was the 12-year-old version of Scott Lang when he was a little boy. And if it wasn't for Dunn's role within this movie, it would not work, but he knocked it out of the park. He did a great job. There was just something about his presence that was very, very scary. Even early on in the film, when he was a little infant, when he was a little toddler and growing up, there was just something about him that was just completely uneasy. And it got me like doing things like that in the theater, and I just couldn't stand it. But at the same time, I loved it within the film. And one of the things I really loved about this film is I had no idea how it was going to end. I had no idea what was going to happen, even with me being familiar with Superman, with this being an evil version of it. And the thing is, they don't just shoehorn or give you a story that you know before. Even if you have no idea who Superman is, it's very easy to follow this film and put things together. So you don't have to worry about that if you're not a comic book nerd, a comic book geek as I am. Now, this film is an hard R. I mean, my goodness gracious, they don't hold back any punches in this film. If you just don't like gore and grotesque things like that, this film may not be for you. Now, it is not a predominant part of the film. It's not just like a gore fest or anything like that, but the scenes that do have a lot of gore in it do get very gruesome. And they don't just have gore in this film just to have gore in it, just to have a hard R rating or to seem cool or like the new fresh thing. No, them having gore in the film actually enhances the story and gives a lot of character development to the evil Superman of Brandon Breyer. And when it comes to suspense films or horror films, one thing I cannot understand is when you have a character doing something stupid, something idiotic. It clocks me out on the film. There's no one really like that in this film except for Elizabeth Banks, just a little bit within the scene or two, but I could, like I said, I can understand where she's coming from because she loves this child. She doesn't want to, grasp onto reality, even though it may be obvious, but at the same time it won't. But I hate dumb characters in the film, and there are really no dumb characters in this movie, and a lot of characters die. And as I was watching the film, I was like, man, I would have reacted. I would have done the same exact thing if I was in this situation, and they still end up dead. So when you have characters making great decisions, but they still, reach the end of the road, that just makes it better. I love it when people go all out, and it just wasn't enough for them in this film. Also, just something kind of funny in this film is, the boy, the evil Superman, he's a child. He's a young teenager trying to become a young man. So he's growing up, and there was a discussion that he was having between his father about puberty and things like that. It was pretty awkward and funny at the same time, but I like that they put it in the film just for balance. I also love the direction by Mr. David Yarovesky, the way this film is shot and the way he pans the camera around certain corners to just add that extra element of excitement and surprise. It really worked, and it popped, and it really pulled you into the film. And when it comes to superhero movies and comic book movies and origin stories, some of the things that I love best are the discovery of the individual's powers and just also a certain montage here and there. I absolutely love what they did with the discovery of his powers and things like that. Initially, I was turned off, just saying to myself, wait a minute, this does not make sense. But as the film progressed along and we got a little bit of exposition here and just how exactly Tori and Kyle Breyer, the parents, wanted to operate as far as giving their young child information, it really worked well for me. And I also love how he got his powers and how he discovered his powers. Does he get his powers from the sun? Does he get his powers or his motivations for someone else? It was a surprise that I did not see coming, and I liked the way it turned out. The only thing that I didn't like about this film is it only came in at 1 hour and 31 minutes, and I love a 90-minute film, but at the same time, this one did feel a little lengthy. That's unfortunate with the pacing. Sometimes I did kind of turn in my seat just like, okay, let's get going. You guys already made your point, but at the same time, I can say that I was never bored. I really did enjoy this film. Seriously, if you are a big fan of Superman, you'll love this film. Even if you're not a big fan of Superman, you still will find some enjoyment. I love the powers. I love what they did with the character. I love how bold this film was and was just not afraid to hold anything back. I mean, they really went in on this film. If I had to rate Brightburn out of a 1 out of 10, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. Yes, an 8.5 out of 10. But guys, that is just my opinion. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please comment below what you think, or if you're excited about this film. Look me up on social media, share the video, and also subscribe. I really would appreciate it. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.